seat this way. Hi, John. You all right? Happy to do your thing. I go get him a room somewhere. I go somewhere. I'll see you all in a couple of days.
It's getting better. Look how high it is.
This is, mine has to be designed. Can't see over the desk.
Everybody ready?
Give me a booster seat up here.
Go over to the barber shop.
We get a couple phone books for council.
It's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead. We do have a quorum. We'll go ahead and call the meeting of the council to order. First order of the meeting would be invocation given by myself, and then the pledge to both the American and Texas flag by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Durham. If you would join me, please. This past weekend, yesterday actually, a couple here in our community lost a little 2-year-old child. It was a very tragic event, and I'm sure we all know someone that has suffered through something like that with either a friend or a family member. So if you would, I'd like to ask us to take a moment of silence here and think about those who have lost someone dear, a loved one, a family member, or someone that you know. And let's pause for that and give them some silence and some recognition. Gracious Almighty God, we ask your blessing on those who have suffered loss and those who are ill. We thank you for all the blessings and many things you've given us in each and every one of our lives, each and every day we live. We ask that you be with us here tonight, that we might govern and rule this community which you have bestowed upon us in a way that would be pleasing unto you, in a way which would make you smile and say, well done, my children. We ask all this in your Son's most holy and precious name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Tonight, we have a little award to present here tonight. We have City of Louisville is being awarded a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which is awarded for the period ending September 30th, 2008 by the Government Finance Officers Association, GFOA. And this is the 20th consecutive year the city has received this award. Brenda Martin, our Director of Finance, will accept this award on behalf of the city. The award will be presented by Mr. Bob Scott, who is a member of the GFOA Executive Board, Chairman of the Financial Reporting and Regulatory Response Committee of the Government Finance Officers Association of Texas, and Chief Financial Officer and Assistant City Manager of the City of Carrollton. Mr. Scott, if you would come forward, and Brenda, if you would come forward.
Well, it's my great pleasure to make this presentation today. Just to give you a little background, in order to be awarded the Certificate of Achievement, you have to prepare an annual report which meets the GFOA specifications, and there's a 78-page checklist which 3 independent reviewers go through to make sure that the city has complied with those requirements. I've actually served on the committee of reviewers for the last 20 years, so I know how thorough a process that is. And of the over 80,000 governments in the United States, only about 4,000 or 5% actually receive the Certificate of Achievement. So this is not something that every government participates in or that every government gets. So, Ms. Martin, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to make note that this award says it's presented to the City of Louisville, not the Finance Department of the City of Louisville. And that's because GFOA recognizes this is a group effort. The Finance Department could create financial policies and a framework, but without the cooperative effort of all of our departments and everyone involved in the City of Louisville and policymakers making sound decisions you make every week, we would not be able to have the strong financial integrity we have here at the city. So I appreciate everyone. It's definitely a group effort. This is for the fiscal year 2008. Currently, 2009, we are working on that. It started at the end of our fiscal year, and we'll be bringing in the annual audit for you to approve in March. And for those of you who may not have met him yet, I wanted to introduce the core person responsible for working on the 2009 one, the upcoming one, Brian Hogan, our accounting manager. And he'll be standing up here next year, I'm sure. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And Bob, thank you so much. We appreciate all your work that you do. And Brenda, thank you. And Brian, and thank you for all your staff and all the staff. Once again, yes, so you want to let's get a quick picture here. They're the important ones. Make sure you get them in there. Once again, our 20th year, and we greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thank you to all our staff. Thank you. You know, as we get ready to continue with the public hearing, I look out there and I see some people are wearing purple today. Anybody know why I might be wearing purple today? I think there's a ball game going on right now. You know, it's a pretty unique opportunity that we have here. The state of Texas has the opportunity to have the only 2 undefeated national college football teams in the country. We have opportunity tonight for Texas Christian University to win and be undefeated, and then we have, of course, the University of Texas playing Thursday night, which also could end up being undefeated. So that's something for the state of Texas and our community to be proud of. Okay. Next item is a public hearing, consideration of an ordinance for a zone change request from agriculture open space to light industrial on a 3.7-acre tract located at 1926 through 1954 East Business State Highway 121, further identified as Track 8 of the SM Hayden Survey, Abstract 537, as requested by Joy Hurst, the property owner. A variance was granted on November 16, 2009 by City Council to waive the engineering site plan including associated improvements for Midway Road, thus allowing water and sewer taps for the development. The applicant agreed to zone the property, process a final plat of the property, provide a 10-foot landscape strip along road frontages, install a fire lane, and pay associated capital recovery fees. The property is legal, non-conforming to current code status and can continue to operate as is. The change in zoning would bring it in compliance on a zoning aspect, and staff is in favor of this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted 5-0 in favor of the zone change request at the December 1st, 2009 meeting. I have a card here filled out by Mr. Joy Hurst that he's here to answer any question as he is in support of this, and just here to answer any questions if anybody has any. Councilman Tierney?
Mayor, I have nothing on this, and I would make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Have a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Tierney, a second by Councilman Thornhill. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now, Mr. Tierney, you want to continue?
I still have nothing on this, and make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Councilman Tierney,
Second.
a second by Councilman Thornhill. Councilor?
This is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, that amends the zoning ordinance of the City of Louisville, Texas, granting zoning changes on the 3.7-acre tract of land fully and completely described in the attached Exhibit A, ordering a change in the use of said property from agricultural open district zoning to light industrial district zoning, correcting the official zoning map, preserving all other portions of the zoning ordinance, providing a clause relating to severability, determining that the public interest and general welfare demand a zoning change and amendment therein made, providing a penalty, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item E is the visitor citizen forum. At this time, any person with business before the council not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the council. No formal action can be taken on these items at this meeting. We do have a card filled out by Dee Leggett and Charles Emery with DCTA. Would you like to come forward?
Mayor, if I might oblige you to come down, I have a special presentation to the mayor and council.
Yes, ma'am.
To symbolize our joint partnership in delivering the A train to the city of Louisville by December 2010, we wanted to present to you a ceremonial shovel. Hopefully the city will display it in your case. It has the date of the first groundbreaking, March 27, 2009. Since then, we've broken ground on the other two stations in the city of Louisville and are well on our way to bringing rail service to you guys. We appreciate it so much.
Well, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
You know, this is really a historical day, Dee, and I thank you so much for all the work that you have done, and Charles and all the team at DCETA has done. It's really a historical event. Some people weren't sure about, in fact, I was one of those. I wasn't sure about bringing mass transit to the community, but, some people think that just brings crime and something. But, it really doesn't. We've kind of moved into a modern age, where I've lived in Texas all my life, and I like to drive my car, and I like to park where I want, and this and that. But, it's going to really provide us an opportunity where if I don't want to have to fight traffic, I can drive less than a mile from my house, get on a train, go to downtown Dallas, from there I can go to Fort Worth, I can go to Garland, I can go to Plano, without ever having to get in my car and worry about traffic. It's really just another opportunity that we have to make choices of the way we travel, and another opportunity for us to go green. I'm so excited that we're having this come to Louisville. I just think it's a great thing, and I know now our citizens, you know, my parents-in-law, you talk about the crime and stuff, they've been a member of DART. They live in Garland. They've been a member of DART for years. They're both in their 80s. Well, my mother-in-law's now, she's 79. And I'll be in trouble now. But they ride the DART from Garland. It's less than a mile house. They ride to Garland, from Garland, downtown Dallas, go to museums, eat. They go all the way to, they get on the T, go to Fort Worth and use it. So that's what people here will be able to do and not have to worry about driving those trains. So I think it's just another opportunity we have. And thank you so much, and thank you, CTA.
We appreciate you and your staff.
Thank you. Thank you, Charles. Mr. City Manager, I'll give this to you and let you display this proudly, sir. Okay, consent agenda is the next item. All the following items on the consent agenda are considered to be self-explanatory by the council and will be enacted with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. For a citizen to request removal on an item, a speaker card must be filled out and submitted to the city secretary. I did not have any cards filled out. Councilman Thornhill?
Mayor, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Thornhill to approve and a second by Councilman Grena. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is item number 5, consideration of 2 variances to the Louisville City Code, Chapter 6, Land Development, Section 6-92 Sidewalks, and Section 6-124 Landscaping regarding Mary's Southern Cuisine located at 385 Storage Court as requested by Thomas Hoover. Thomas Hoover Engineering, LLC, representing the owner. The General Development Ordinance requires landscaping and a sidewalk parallel to the public rights-of-way. The proposed location for Mary's Southern Cuisine and Entertainment has footage along the I-35 Stemmons Service Road, which is within the 100-year floodplain. In addition, the area is bridged by the service road, eliminating any access from the service road. Once the I-35 expansion takes place, it is staff's understanding that the state will provide a pedestrian way on the bridge that will provide connectivity to the existing sidewalks on neighboring properties outside of the floodplain. The following variances are being requested: 1, to waive the required sidewalks, and 2, to waive the required landscaping. Recommendation of staff: City Council requested variance are set forth. Approve the City Council variance as set forth in the caption above. Councilman Watts?
I think this makes sense if the I-35 is done, the state's going to provide it. If not, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have it on the road anyway. So I don't really have any issues with this. If anyone have any questions? Hearing none, move to approve.
Okay, I forgot to mention I do have a card filled out by Mark Riddle. He is just here to answer, and he is in support, and he is here to answer any questions that we do. So with that, we do have a motion to approve by Councilman Watts. Second. Second by Councilman Durham. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6 is consideration of a final plat for Castle Hills Phase 5, Section A, lots 1R-2R and 43-45X, Block A 1.02 acre tract designated estate townhouse with 4 residential lots and 1 common area lot, located south of FM 544, east of and adjacent to 121 Tollway, in consideration of 2 variances to the Castle Hills Development Agreement as requested by Pate Engineers representing the property owner. The following variances are being requested: 1, to allow 44-foot street right-of-ways and 6-foot sidewalk and utility easement previously approved on March 19, 2009, and 2, to waive the required sidewalk along the 121 Tollway adjacent to Castle Hills Phase 4, Section A. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the plat and variances at the December 15th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting by a vote of 6-0. Recommendation of staff is council approve the final plat requested variances. Councilman Guerrero.
Yes, sir. I understand they have a walkway inside the shield wall. Is that correct?
Let me also ask, I do have is it Dave Walker? Doug, I'm sorry, Doug, is also here to answer any questions that you might have. The staff might be able to answer that one for you.
Mr. Walker, there is a walkway on the inside of that wall all the way around that property. Is that correct? I think that's great. I don't have anything else to say, and motion to approve.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Guerrero to approve, a second by Councilman Watts. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7 is consideration of an ordinance amending Louisville City Code, Chapter 16, Section 16-111 through 16-140, industrial waste, by replacing it with new provisions regulating the discharge of waste into the sanitary sewers of the City of Louisville, Texas, as required by the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, better known as TCEQ, and approval of the funding resolution providing for a continuation of adequate funding for implementation of the City of Louisville's pretreatment program. The TCEQ requires regulatory language to conform to changes in the Texas Water Code, providing for protection of the publicly owned treatment works through the establishment of specific discharges, limitations, permitting, testing, and sampling, and conform with the City of Louisville's treatment program procedures. Recommendation of staff is that the council approve the ordinance and resolution as set forth in the caption. Councilman Durham?
Mayor, this just appears to be a cleanup item to follow state law, and with that I move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Durham to approve, a second by Councilman Guerrero. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor? Mayor?
I'm sorry, I forgot to have you read the caption. I'm sorry, ma'am. Thank you.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Louisville, Texas, repealing the present language of Chapter 16, Section 16-111 through 16-140 of the Louisville City Code, replacing it with new provisions regulating the discharge of waste into the sanitary sewers of the City of Louisville, Texas, providing new definitions, new discharge prohibitions and limitations, providing for accidental or slug discharges, providing for industrial waste permit system, providing inspections, sampling, and testing, providing reporting requirements, providing for public notice of significant noncompliance, providing for a pollution control and abatement system, providing legal action, providing a severability clause, providing a repealer, providing a penalty, providing an effective date, and declaring an emergency.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Councilor. Item number 8 is consideration of direction to staff regarding use of the federal E-Verify program for city contracts and purchases requested by Councilman Guerrero. Staff, the federal comments, the federal E-Verify program was mandated by recent executive order for certain federal contracts and contractors. Several states have variations of an E-Verify mandate, ranging from requiring use by all employers to just state contractors, state agencies, or both. However, Texas is not among them. Some cities have also passed various variations of E-Verify requirements, though none in Texas to staff's knowledge. The recommendation of staff is to pursue statewide use of E-Verify as a legislative initiative in the 2010 legislative session. I do have card filled out by Winston Edmondson. Like to speak? Is in support? If you would, sir, come forward and give your name and address, please.
Winston Edmondson, 1292 Marchant Place, Louisville, Texas. Mayor, City Council, I think we got off on the wrong foot the last time I spoke to you about E-Verify. After reviewing the footage from that meeting, which is still available on www.socialpointnetwork.com, it seems to me that some of you felt I was accusing the city of not being in compliance with Federal Immigration Act. So I apologize for any miscommunication. I understand that we're in full compliance. What I'm saying then, and what I'd like to say now, is that this is the time to go above and beyond compliance. And I want to thank Councilman Guerrero for putting this item on the agenda. Earlier today, I spoke about E-Verify on the radio, And after listening to the city manager in the workshop meeting, my opinion hasn't changed. There aren't any significant reasons not to require our city contractors to use E-Verify. Challenges with complexity aren't legitimate reasons to say no. Saying no because there aren't any cities in Texas that require E-Verify isn't legitimate. Must we always be followers? It wasn't too long ago that Councilman Durham was complaining about the Liberty Freeway project. He didn't want to follow the lead of Farmers Branch. Well, this is our chance to lead. We don't have to follow. Would the cost of projects rise? I don't think so, but if only the contractors that were previously hiring illegal aliens, those costs might rise. And if that's the case, then this new price is actually the fair price that we should have been paying all along. I spoke with Karen Hamann, who's the city clerk in Mission Viejo, California. They have not experienced any of the issues that you raised as concerns. I also spoke with Pav Yi, who runs E-Verify for that city, for the employees that work for the city. She says it's absolutely the most simple process. There's no software to install. It's all web-based, and they've had no problems. In fact, any rejections have usually come from her mistyping information, and she finds it easily and corrects it. They haven't experienced any problems, and they don't regret doing the program. I'd appreciate all of you to think about what we would be accomplishing and join Councilman Guerrera and be leaders and vote yes for E-Verify.
I have a card filled out by Miles Hozel. I hope I'm pronouncing that correct. Is in support of use of E-Verify, and then a card by Francis Davis, who is in support of E-Verify. They did not want to speak. I have a card by Greg Hayden, who is in opposition. Mr. Hayden, you'd like to come speak? If you would, sir, just give your name and address.
My name is Greg Hayden, 454 Frankie Lane, Louisville, Texas. And I need to correct that a little bit. I'm not against E-Verify in theory. In fact, I'm for the objective. The problem is that I listened to the pontification about the particular rules, the subcontractor and the employee and the employer. And folks, my eyes glaze over after about 10 minutes of that, and I don't hear anything else. There's a real simple solution to all this. In fact, it could be a money-making opportunity for the city of Louisville and provide a few jobs. You know, in the past I've done air conditioning, and contractors in the city of Louisville are required to register with the city. It cost me $50 to do that in the city of Louisville. Carrollton, I think, is $75. If you want to go over there and get expensive, Flower Mound's $150. Now, I don't get any services for that. I just have to register and tell them I'm here. I think the state of Texas this way, at least in the state of Alabama. When I was working at the McDonald's, they required me to have a food handler's permit issued by the state of Alabama, the health department. Even my dog has to have a license in the city of Louisville, which is fine. I mean, I've got to pay $5 a year and give you vaccination records and let that little thing, I got 2 of them, live here. There's nothing wrong with requiring workers in the city of Louisville to have a work permit. Nothing wrong at all. A part of that process of issuing that permit would be a verification that they have a right to be here and working. $20 a pop a year, whatever you want to do. It's a very simple idea. Apply it to all workers evenly. Check everyone's citizenship. Run a background check. You know, we need to know that we're being protected here from various things that people can bring in this city. Fine employers, what, $10,000 a pop for each violation? That'll take care of a lot of that. That will give, if there's a city ordinance in place, the police department has a legitimate right to stop people on the side of the road and say, let me see your permit. If they don't have it, we're going to jail, or we're writing a citation or something of that nature. But I can see the wheels turning now, the eyes rolling back in the head, but this is a simple idea that could very well work, and it probably wouldn't even need to think about E-Verify. If the city wanted to use it to verify the citizenship, so be it. But anytime you sign a memorandum of understanding with the United States government, folks, he who calls a piper, or he who pays the piper calls the tune. further involvement of the United States government in the city of Louisville is something I really don't want to see. In fact, I'd like to see you cut the purse strings altogether. But think about that. Just an idea, but I just want to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Durham?
Is that all we have?
That's all the people we have. Oh, excuse me, I take back. Somebody did just bring a card up. But Susan Davis is in support. She did not wish to speak.
I'm in opposition to expanding anything that we're doing now. The way I understand it, we are using the E-Verify at the staff level. Is that city level? Is that correct from the staff?
The city uses it for all of its employees. We check our own employee, our own hires before hiring.
Then there's a question that if you were going to go the rest of the way to check all the subcontractors and all the contractors, all the vendors you deal with, where do you stop? That's the question that came up in the workshop. Basically, to me, it opens the city up for penalties from the federal government for not finding out if someone did hire somebody illegal way down the list that didn't have the legal right to work in the United States. So by setting up a program, we would probably be asking for us to have a problem, because we will hire a contractor that has a sub, that has a sub, that has a contractor somewhere down the line that will have somebody here illegally. I'm opposed to expanding what we already do, and we already do use the E-Verify at the staff level, which the Mission Viejo deal, I have no doubt that it's a simple process to use. That wasn't the question that came up at the staff level, is where do they stop, and that they haven't pursued it any further, at least what from the staff that we heard, that they hadn't pursued it any further than asking their contractors to follow the law. That's what I understood from the staff level. If at this workshop, if that's incorrect, somebody needs to tell me. Okay, that's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Green?
Actually, Councilman Durham, I think you're thinking of two different things there. The reason I brought this up...
We'll talk about the two things that I'm talking about that are wrong.
We're not really discussing... Well, this isn't really that the city...
You brought it up. I did.
I understand. This is the... we're not talking about the city using E-Verify to verify the employees that we hire. What I'm trying to do is introduce something similar to Mission Viejo in Huntsville, Alabama, and other cities are starting to do it pretty much because the federal government has started requiring the use of E-Verify for all their contractors. In other words...
Okay, where did I speak incorrectly?
I think you're mixing in the city hiring people.
You said I spoke incorrectly. Where did I make a mistake on?
Well, let me correct myself then. I thought you were talking about or mixing in what the city is doing to hire people and versus us giving money to contractors. So if I was wrong there, I apologize. Let me clarify. That's what I thought you were talking about. But is that not what you're talking about?
You said I made something incorrect in my statement. Where did I make an incorrect statement?
I just think that you were mixing the city hiring with awarding contracts.
And you are asking that we expand our E-Verify to all contracts.
The reason I brought this up is I'm asking that we make that a requirement for when we give out our tax dollars to a bid or a contractor, that they are doing their due diligence so that our tax dollars aren't going to people that shouldn't go to.
Okay, if I make a misstatement, what happens when those people don't do it? Are we liable for it?
No.
We're not liable?
No,
not
according to the frequently asked questions on the E-Verify website of the government.
That's different to what was stated in the back, and the Walmart issue came up.
I know that a lot of issues came up in there that weren't part of my original thing. Even the examples that I had supplied didn't show up in the attachment.
So the Walmart was an incorrect statement they made?
I don't think it had any relevance, because it didn't...
Even though they were held liable?
They ended up settling out of court, which didn't do any... How did you say?
Legal precedent.
Legal precedent.
But they did pay something to not have to go to court.
If Walmart hired contractors that E-verified their employees, they probably wouldn't have had that problem. Okay?
Even though they had a statement that said that they were complying with all the law.
I don't think they had a statement of that. They didn't care what the subcontractor did. But anyway, let me read this comment from President Bush.
So do you take back the statement that I made, that you made, that I made something in error? A statement in error.
I think you're mixing two different things that should be separate. That's what my statement should be. All right? According to President Bush, let's say the Immigration Reform Citizen Act of 1986 introduced the I-9 form. That is what employers need to fill out in order to, and Human Resources, please correct me if I'm wrong, to fill out that, to do your due diligence in order that you're hiring people that have the right to work in the United States. Citizen or not, doesn't matter if they have a right to be here, green card or citizen, etc. That I-9 form lets you do a number of choices, whether it be a driver's license, Social Security card. You're supposed to get the information and store it somewhere. There were a lot of gripes and complaints back in the late 1980s about that. Now with the computer age and everything, we have kids nowadays that can make you an ID and a false Social Security card off their home computers, and it looks pretty darn legit. E-Verify is nothing more than electronic verification of that information that's supplied on the I-9 form. Therefore, President Bush, back in 2008, had signed an executive order to amend that. I'm just going to read a couple of sentences out of it that make total sense to me. A contractor whose workforce is less stable will likely to produce goods and services economically and ineffectively than a contractor whose workforce is more stable. Later down in that paragraph, after some other mumbo-jumbo, it says, contractors that employ illegal aliens cannot rely on the continuing availability and service of those illegal workers, and such contractors inevitably will have a less stable and less dependable workforce than contractors that do not employ such persons. Where a contractor assigns illegal aliens to work on federal contracts, understand I'm reading from the federal law here, the enforcement of federal immigration laws imposes a direct risk of disruption, delay, and increased expense in federal contracting. Such contractors are less dependable procurement resources, even if they do not knowingly hire or knowingly continue to employ unauthorized workers. It says that electronic employment verification system, because among other reasons, it provides the best available means to confirm the identity and work eligibility of all employees that join the workforce. That's all I'm wanting to do at the city level. There are 12 states that require it for, 9 states that require it for public contracts. What tax dollars go for? 3 more states require for public and private contractors to check E-Verify. The federal system is pretty intense. I'm not even trying to go that far. I want the people that we're going to do business with to show that they do their due diligence. Basically, it's pretty simple. I use the Mission Viejo, California ordinance as an example. That's what I would like to see here, us to have some type of ordinance that we prefer that people who do business with us are enrolled in the E-Verify program and as a stipulation to get awarded a contract. The federal government requires that all subcontractors beyond that also. I also agree. I think that contractors that we award the business to, if they're going to hire somebody, they should make sure that the people they hire are registered on this program. Currently, we have a requirement that City Manager King, the requirement is that our subcontractors should hire legal workers, but we have the option to audit those, what am I?
The requirement is that they comply with federal law.
And we have an option.
And that we have an option in the contract to audit the I-9s.
Okay. To audit those I-9s. If they get on the E-Verify program, that really becomes the federal government's responsibility the way I understand it. All we're going to request is that we get some type of form or verification that they are on that program and that they hire people that are also on that program. It is a voluntary system right now, and I encourage all companies that have employees to get that in program. The website, you can read it for yourself, E-Verify, the frequently asked questions, it's free. It takes literally a few minutes. You can only do it on new employees after you've become a member of this E-Verify program. Basically, you have, if there's any information that's not correct, like the address doesn't match up to the Social Security number, you have up to 90 days to get that worked out. You can't do it until after you hire somebody, and you can't fire them for the information being wrong until after the 90 days if they haven't gotten the stuff fixed. To me, this is just another tool that we can encourage people to do. We can also, it'll help us do our due diligence to make sure that our tax dollars are going to people who should be working in this country legally. ICE also has a program called IMAGE. The acronym eludes me at this moment. But basically, it's a program to allow private businesses and contractors, public-private, to become a part of this program and become an E-Verify, quote-unquote, company. There's a lot of frequently asked questions in there. A lot of people have concerns. Is this going to, cause problems with my business? No, you're pretty much covered because you're doing your due diligence. They have procedures on working out everything. If you have a disagreement with an employee and he files a complaint against the state, there's a whole procedure there. It's just the way the things work. Yes, it's a shame that we have to encourage people to do stuff like that, to try to do things legally when they should be doing it on their own. If you're a company that does everything by the book, you really wouldn't have any problems. And if you do, there are ways to fix them, and everything's in your favor. So whether this gets passed tonight or not, and what I'm encouraging is that, what I'm going to propose is that the city staff generate an E-Verify program ordinance similar to Mission Viejo. It doesn't have to be exact. It can be like Huntsville, Alabama. It can be like the other cities. Since September, there have been a lot of cities talking about it. I keep hearing the term, we don't need to be on the bleeding edge. Yeah, but, we don't need to be bleeding either, and some things that we do can stop that hemorrhaging of the city. Some of the things that we can do to help this country, and it works at all levels. These programs were developed so that local communities and businesses can get involved. It's not a federal job only. That's misinformation, in my opinion. If it was the federal government's job only, then they wouldn't be having these programs we're talking about tonight. They wouldn't have them at all. They wouldn't even offer us. But they're asking for our help. This is pretty simple. Employer hires somebody. They type in their name, address, phone number, Social Security, birth date, hit enter. It comes back. Is there a problem? Yes or no. If there is, you have 90 days to work out the problems. They cannot fire them. They still work for you. There's a lot of good benefits with E-Verify, and we have a lot of companies in Louisville that do it already. I encourage the citizens of Louisville to promote those companies that are doing their due diligence. There was a lot of other things I wanted to say about I think because we don't have to worry about auditing I-9s, that's something we won't have to worry about once they're on an E-Verify program, which we don't have money and the time and effort to audit I-9s anyway. So we'll leave that let that be a federal problem. If there's a problem, they will work on it. Of course, we could have things on our ordinance that will stipulate that if, in order to have our contract, they must maintain that E-Verify status. They can get off of it 30 days later, but we would recommend that they would get off of it after the contract's done. The people say other cities in Texas aren't doing it yet. They are talking about it. But look what happened with the school zone ordinance. By the way, I'm not really a fan of the school zone ordinance, but it is a perfect example of what happens when you have all the different communities stepping up to do something. Then the state's going to get involved. The last two legislative sessions, I've been trying to get the state to pass. Just last year, HB 1066, Leo Berman out of Tyler, Texas, didn't even get to the floor. Unless communities one by one start doing things. We have the school zone, not using the cell phone thing is the best example I can come up with, but I think they've done other things too with minimum regulations on sex offender, how far they can live from schools and stuff. We need to do something. This is, to me, a no-brainer. This is something we can do. This is something we can ask our contractors to do as far as their due diligence. I'm not for all they have to supply is that they're on that program. I think there was a comment made about charging people to come register. To me, it's another tax. I'm not really into that. I think we should promote the IMAGE program for ICE as a public awareness thing, something like we do with DARE, Say No to Drugs. You know, IMAGE.
Councilman Green, if I could ask you just to kind of wrap it up and keep it on E-Verify, not talking about other programs.
Yes, sir. That's what I was trying to make my point. But that is actually pretty much my closing point there. E-Verify, the pilot program. Last thing is the pilot program started in 1997. It turned into E-Verify. It's 13 or 12 years later, 13 years later, and it's getting pretty good results. Let's work with it. Let's make it better. Let's be a part of it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks. Okay, Councilman Watt.
First off, I guess in the interest of full disclosure and transparency in government, my day job, my employer, is a nonprofit association that serves the needs of the commercial construction industry. We are one of the largest nonprofits in the state. Over 1,900 members that work in all aspects of commercial construction. So if there is, I don't know that there's going to be a call to vote on a proposal or not, but if there is a vote tonight or in the future on an ordinance, some of those contractors bid on City of Louisville jobs, on construction jobs. Some of those member firms, the association I work for, use E-Verify, some of them don't, for various reasons. So just in the interest of transparency and to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest, if there's a vote on an ordinance or a vote here tonight, my vote either way could be construed as favoring some of those contractors over the others. So I would have to abstain if there's an official vote. Having said that, Mr. Mayor, I'll leave it to your discretion if you want me to comment or not. Since
sure, go ahead.
Okay. Because I do have some, experience with the construction community and those who who bid on federal work, who are required to use E-Verify. It is, even though the pilot program was started in the mid-90s, 96? 97. The requirement is relatively recent, that it's now mandated by the feds. If you're going to bid if you're going to do federal government work, it's required.
September 8th.
Right. And there are still some, with any new program, there's going to be bugs or kinks to be worked out. And there are some with E-Verify. Let me say, no one is more frustrated than I am with the immigration situation in this country. And anybody who knows me or talks to me for about 5 minutes will verify that. It is an outrage to me that the current federal administration, the previous federal administration, allowed what is going on our borders. And a lot of times the outrage from the public can generate kind of knee-jerk reaction responses from our federal government, whether it be Congress or a federal agency, in a rush to say, look, we did something. We know everybody's mad about this. Here's a program. Here it is. Let's get it out there and let's get everybody doing it. A lot of the devil's always in the details, and a lot of the intricacies of how the program is implemented and who uses it and how they're responsible was mentioned. The general contractor is the person who's liable for the penalties involved at the federal level, and he's required to ensure that his subcontractors are using it. That puts him on the hook for his subs, who are generally the guys who are actually hiring the labor who are going to be out there, which is typically the part of the job that you're concerned with when it comes to legal status to work in the country. There are still some things that are going to settle out. Some of it's going to end up in court. The Walmart case was mentioned, which was a big case, but then it settled out of court, so it didn't really create any legal precedent. I'm the first one to say there are some times where it's good to step out and be first and be a leader. The other hand, like I mentioned to somebody earlier, a lot of pioneers also got scalped. And before I get emails, I know I don't look like it, but I have American Indian heritage, so it's okay for me to use that term. The truth is there's no silver bullet solution to this. I wish there was. And if I thought this was it, I'd be the first one to tell you. As I said, I have to be careful, because of my employment. So what I would like to do, without getting too far into it, let me say a couple of things that you can't use E-Verify for. You cannot use E-Verify to screen a prospective employer. If you've got employee, if you've got
I think I already covered that.
3 guys coming in, to apply for the same job, you can't ask them for their info and go put it through E-Verify and see if one of them, red flags, so you know not to hire that guy. Frankly, I think it'd be more effective if you could use it for that, because that would keep you from hiring somebody that you had a question about. You also can't use it for the people who you currently employ. So, if we put this in at the city level and required the people bidding on our contracts, we technically couldn't be sure that the money they got from a City of Louisville contract, once it hits their books and their payrolls, we don't really know who their current employees are, and they can't use E-Verify to verify their current employees. I applaud John for bringing it up, and I am in support of what I think your big picture goal is, which is to have something in place that gives us the peace of mind to know that our tax dollars aren't being handed out to companies who are out there knowingly hiring people who aren't legally eligible to work in the city.
Plus.
What's that?
You talked about goals. Plus, we have so many people in this country out of work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I'm right there with you. That's the goal, and I'm, that's a good goal, and I hope we can find some way to get down the road to achieving that goal. So, if I can, Mayor, I'd like to propose something that would not be exactly what John is talking about, but I think would get us a little bit further down the road to that goal. That would also not put me in the position of having to abstain from a vote, so I could actually be, involved. Because even if we require that everybody doing business with the city use E-Verify,
not just contract,
or the people that are bidding on contracts or getting a contract from the city, use E-Verify, and correct me, John, if I'm misstating what you said, that basically all we would require them is to say that they're using it.
They're using it, yeah, and it also wouldn't apply to, there's thresholds that the city manager can limit, like the contract threshold, like anything under $50,000, wouldn't, apply. There are things that we have to draw the line somewhere. Mission Viejo is $30,000. I think the state of Texas has 50 on some things. We let the state mandate what that dollar amount is.
The reason I ask the question is that my point is, at a certain point, we have to take it on faith that they're using it properly.
And if they're a member of it, that's where we go. That's where faith starts.
That if they're using it, there's nothing, and there's really not a way, and staff can correct me, or you can correct me if I'm wrong, for us legally to be able to go in and look and say, you're using E-Verify, and this guy got flagged, and you didn't do anything about it.
No, that's the federal government's problem at that point. We won't have to do anything with that.
But my point is, we still have to kind of step out on faith and take them at their word. They're using it properly.
It's a step in the right direction, sir.
Right. I understand. Okay. What I would like to propose, because we can talk about it being, simple, but the fact is there are a lot of kind of side roads that come up when you get into dealing with the federal government, like Mr. Hayden mentioned earlier in his comment about not getting us more entangled with the federal government. And in general, I agree. Less entanglement with the feds is best. What I would like to propose would be either and this would just be a policy directive to the staff. You could come back with either an administrative policy or an ordinance, however you would like, to add to our requirements for anyone bidding on a contract from the city, whether that's a construction contract, a maintenance contract. You can set the parameters like John mentioned earlier. To add a line on the form, a question, or a spot on the form, or the bid documents that would inquire as to whether or not the prospective bidder had within the previous year, or you could expand it if you wanted to, 18 months, 5 years, whatever, under a previous certain amount of time, been prosecuted for violation of 8 U.S.C. Section 1324A, which is the portion of the federal code that basically says it's illegal to hire somebody that you know to be not legally eligible to work in this country. If we had that as part of our bid process, then the people filling out that paperwork would have to tell us whether or not they had broken this law, which would allow the staff to say, you know what, you're not getting the contract. You broke that law. Now, a year from now, you come back, you fill out the same, you bid on a similar contract, you fill out the same form, and this time the answer to that question is no. That tells us you fixed the problem, or at the very least, you've settled with the feds and it's over. You've kind of done whatever it is that the feds ask you to do. Kind of gets us out of that process, but it lets us know if you've violated this. And this, again, is going to be a little bit of faith, asking them, I don't know what sort of verification process maybe we could come up with other than to search the legal databases for cases. But I'm proposing this as a little bit, it may not be as far as John wants to go, but I think it's a step down that road of getting us something from the people who want to do business with the City of Louisville, who want to get City of Louisville taxpayer dollars, to put them on the record. Have you ever been in trouble with the feds for hiring people you're not supposed to hire? And I think that there may come a time when some of the other issues with E-Verify are worked out, and there may become a time where it makes perfect sense for us to do this. I'm not sure that tonight or right now is that time, but this would get us headed in that direction, and the state may do something that imposes it on everybody. And there's nothing that we couldn't come back and do this later if some of these other issues that were brought up with E-Verify are worked out. So I'll just throw that out for consideration.
Councilman Thornhill.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think anybody up here is in favor of anybody working that's not supposed to be here or illegal. I don't think that's what the issue is. I certainly would not support anything that said we'll go out and hire somebody that's not legal in the United States or can work in this country. The only thing, and I don't think I answered this question in workshop, I'm not sure I ever got it completely answered, is let's say that we did do E-Verify on our contractors. How would we enforce that? We're going to have an E-Verify policeman go out and knock on the doors and say, are you following procedures? Let me see your papers. I don't even know that we got that right, do we? And that's going to the city manager, I'm sorry.
You can require copies of their enrollment information. Whether you actually check to determine whether or not they have extended that requirement through all levels of subcontracting, you would have absolutely no idea.
Could they be lying to us and we wouldn't know it?
Unless you audit them, it's entirely possible.
And when was the last time we did an audit on our current policy?
We've never done an audit because of the time and cost associated with it. So I think that the approach is basically you make the requirement, and in fact this is what Mission Viejo does. They just make the requirement and they don't worry about it. They've never done an audit. And don't intend to.
I think Councilman Durham verified a question I was going to ask, is we're using it in City Hall as far as our hires, so I answered that question. I guess another concern of mine might be, at what point does government stop intervening into people's business and telling them how to run their business? That kind of concerns me a little bit. And getting down into the subcontractor to subcontractor, that's pretty much a joke to me. I don't know how we would even think about enforcing that. I think the E-Verify program's a good program for the federal government. I'm not sure it's good for the municipal sector just yet. I would certainly entertain some more study on this, maybe some type of modification as to this program. But as it exists with the federal government, I don't know that I could support that. So I would certainly, this only came to me Thursday night, so I hadn't had a lot of time to think about it or study on it. I think we could still hammer around some stuff to look at this so that we could possibly require contractors to follow the law, but the way it exists now, if you don't have any meat in the ordinance or the changes, then I don't know how you're going to enforce it and why pass it. So that's kind of my thought process on it.
Councilman Tierney?
Thank you, Mayor. I am in favor of E-Verify, and I'm in favor of the city using a variation of E-Verify. I agree with Councilman Guerrero that I think he said it, if I can paraphrase, just making sure that people we do business with do their due diligence, hiring the right people. I think, like Councilman Thornhill says, I believe everybody up here believes in that, and that we need to take any step that we do and any action that we can to make sure that that happens. I disagree with Councilman Guerrero when he says it's pretty simple and that it's a no-brainer. I think there's a whole lot of things that we need to study and we need to analyze, and I'm not in a position right now, after a quick 45 minutes of rush, we got to hurry up, we got to get this in a quick meeting tonight to take any serious action on it. But of course, we're not voting on anything, we're just simply providing direction. I have 2 pages of questions that I want to ask and discuss and dig more into it and find out more about it. It's mind-blowing if we were to do a full sweep on this, what ramifications that it could have for the city. And there's a lot of things that we need to flush out before we take such actions. And I think if we were to, that we could be doing ourselves a disservice. Councilman Watts, I like your concept of starting off in the right direction. I would be in favor of, instead of jumping in, just diving right into it, maybe starting off slow after studying it some more, and getting a lot more of these answers to some of these questions that we all have. That's just they're not going to get answered tonight. But I would be in favor of starting off and in a slow process, getting some kinks worked out, and continuing to move forward. And I'm in favor of going as far forward as we possibly can within to make sure that it works for all involved parties. So having said that, what I would like to propose tonight is maybe setting up, I don't know if it's another workshop, if it's too late to get it on our retreat agenda, but I would like to discuss this further and maybe consider what the first step is, the most logical step to proceed forward with such a program.
Thank you. I agree that I think the intent of the program is a very good intent. I I rely a lot on our city manager, whom we pay to oversee this city and look at this. He has done years of study on this actual program. He's been involved in it for several years, looking at the E-Verify program. And correct me if I speak out of turn or incorrectly here, but I believe he agrees in its meaning and effort. It is a good program. The problem that he has currently is that the way it's structured, there's too many variables that the city probably should not intake in the actual E-Verify program itself the way it's structured right now. His recommendation was actually that we do pursue statewide use of E-Verify as a legislative initiative for the 2011 legislation. I certainly don't have a problem with that. I think, City Manager, I'll let you just go ahead and speak what you think on this. As far as I know, you've done more study than any of us have on this, and you've been studying it for years, not just the last 6 months or 9 months, whatever.
I don't know if I'd say years. It's not been a
you've given me
not been a major item on my plate for the past several years, but it certainly has been since Councilman Green and I have been talking about it. The staff recommendation involves statewide solutions to this problem because we believe that, unlike others that disagree with this, that passing a resolution here in Louisville is going to do absolutely nothing other than to increase an administrative workload that's already pretty significant in the purchasing department and the finance department. Especially if you get into actually checking to see whether your ordinance is being complied with, and we always recommend that you not pass ordinances that you have no intent to check for compliance, because there's no reason to pass it if you're not going to check for compliance. And by compliance in this case, I mean making sure that all the subs are using it, or if that's the way you write it, and that all the contractors are using it and have documented that according to whatever requirements you pass. So that's the concern there, and the overriding policy issue that has been discussed, or the policy objective of decreasing illegal employment throughout the country. There are those, and John's among them, we've talked about this, that would argue you do that one step at a time, a city at a time, or one jurisdiction at a time, but we just think a better use of your resources at this point in time would be to try to do that at the state level now that there is some momentum from the federal government passing it or requiring it on their federal contracts in September. There might be more support for something like this at the state level. Although, I will qualify that by indicating that the state has looked at it, as Councilman Green indicated, through at least 7 different bills last legislative session, took virtually no action, probably for many of the same reasons, as well as the potential for litigation with the federal government. So that's by no means a slam dunk. But again, the use of this program by Louisville contractors is a very small drop in the bucket of the overall policy issue and the stated policy objective.
Mayor, can I say?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to put in a word while we're discussing this for the employers out there. A lot of times you have elected officials, whether it be city level, state level, federal level, responding to the kind of squeaky wheel gets the grease scenario, very hot issue. They don't want to look like they're not doing anything, so they pass a law, make everybody do this, make everybody do that, and a lot of times caught in the middle, especially on this issue with E-Verify, are honest, hardworking businessmen and women who are trying to do at their very best to know that they're hiring the right people who are here legally to work. If it was as easy as just stroke of a pen, pass a law, everybody has to do this, there'd be a lot more construction companies bidding for federal government work. And I can tell you, my experience with contractors, some very, very large and sophisticated companies. We're not talking about, Jim's Construction. That's, the one guy with a pickup truck and a toolbox. I'm talking about, Fortune 500 companies that refuse to do federal government work, not because they're scared somebody's going to come in and raid their workforce because they know they're out there hiring illegals, but because of the absolute maze of paperwork involved with doing federal government work. And it's not just E-Verify. It's Davis-Bacon. It's prevailing wage on some jobs. It's project labor agreements. It's one thing after another. And that ends up, a lot of times, crowding people out of that market that could legitimately do the work, who just don't want to mess with the hassle of dealing with the government. And again, I'm talking about mid-size, even big companies run by honest people doing their very best to comply with the law, who just don't want to mess with jumping through all the hoops. And the more that you shrink the pool of people involved, who can do the work, it's inevitable that the cost goes up. It's not that the cost would go up because they would have to, start paying more because they're currently paying the illegals. It's the cost of compliance. Contractors are not just going to eat the cost of compliance. I can assure you, they are a bottom line industry. And I'm just speaking for construction. I know there's other types of businesses, but it's going to be built into every bid that they do. And I don't want to, as much as I'm in support of the goal, because I am, I don't want to be held, responsible for my local tax dollars being handed out to some guy who's, willingly out there hiring people not legally eligible to work in this country. And that's an admirable goal, and I want us to keep pursuing it. I just don't want to. I don't want us to do something that, in a knee-jerk reaction kind of way, that's going to catch a lot of honest, hard-working people that are going to get caught in between. There's a lot of people out there like that. We talked about the I-9s. Just under the current, not even dealing with E-Verify. If you're just filling out the I-9 form, there's, a Social Security number is one of the things that you can provide to show that you're legally eligible to work here. There's another list of documents that doesn't include the Social Security number that if you provide more than one of those, suffices for the I-9. If an employer who thinks he's doing the right thing requires somebody, if he says, you're not getting a job here unless you show me a Social Security number, he's in violation of employment law. He can be sued for employment discrimination. If, as was mentioned earlier, if he uses E-Verify just as a screening tool, to make sure he doesn't hire somebody who might have a flag, he can get sued for that. If he uses E-Verify or some other system and decides to terminate the employee, he still runs the risk of being sued for wrongful termination. When he's asking people to fill out the I-9 form, he can't require them to show him a Social Security number. And then 10 minutes later, when he's filling out their tax paperwork, the IRS asks him for a Social Security number. I mean, these are just the hoops that honest, not attorneys, we're talking about business owners, have to go through just to legally hire somebody right now. And that's what the current myriad of laws they have to comply with. I want us to head down in the right direction, which is why I proposed what I did. I think it's a step down that direction. But I want to look out for the honest employers out there as well, because they're the people who are providing the tax revenue to this city, where we get the money to hire folks. And somebody needs to be watching out for them, too.
And to that, my concern is with this, Councilman Green mentioned it earlier, that maybe put a limit of $50,000, or you got to draw a line somewhere. So are we saying it's okay to spend taxpayer dollars for people under that have contracts under $50,000 to illegal aliens, to illegal immigrants? I can't go with that. If you're going to do it, you got to do it to everybody. If you're going to do it when you go to IBM and they come to bid on replacing our computers, or whatever company, or Microsoft or any other company, you go to them and require them to use it. You go to them and say, in fact, I want to see your landscaping people that do your landscaping. Because when I pay Microsoft or IBM money, they're paying their landscapers with my money. They've got overhead. They've got costs. So the money I'm using, they're putting it on down the road. Maybe they don't have any illegals, but what about all the people they're paying? So why do you draw the line? Why do you say, well, it's okay if you, under $50,000, we can go ahead and pay you to have illegal immigrants? That's okay.
No, I don't think.
And you know, you don't, to me, you don't want to draw a line. You don't want to make it for anybody. You want to make it encompassing for everybody. And I think that's where our city manager has been saying, is that you've got to make it a system which has not been verified yet. The idea is great, the purpose is great, and I want to see us get to a point where we can do it. I can proudly say that I have never hired an illegal immigrant. I've never hired one to work in my yard, do anything around my house. I've never hired a day laborer, and not all day laborers are illegal. But I've never hired one, just simply because I didn't think it was right. But you know, there's some people that have businesses out of their home, and they buy stuff from people, or you go to Walmart and you buy something from Walmart. Are you asking them to prove that all the people, the manufacturers, their customers and everything, all their employees used E-Verify? We're not doing it. So if we're going to do it across the board to everybody, not just single out large contractors. Why punish them? Because they were successful and able to build a large contracting firm. So that's kind of my concerns with it right
Mayor,
now. Yes, sir, Councilman, you had something?
Yes, I did. I wanted to address two things. The federal government has limits and exemptions too.
And I don't agree with that.
I understand, and I respect
I don't think it'll be right for us to give taxpayers dollars to a smaller company that's hiring illegal immigrants.
Actually, I agree with you on that, sir, but we have to, they're leading by example for us. To Councilman Tierney, I agree, sir, that this is fast rushed. My original plan was to have a discussion one night and give you guys at least 2 weeks to think about it and vote on it the following night. But that was pretty much made to come on one night. We asked contractors to supply miscellaneous 1099. The E-Verify form would be one more thing that they're in compliance. That's about it. Thank you, sir. Let's make a motion to, unless Tierney wants to make a motion to postpone it for 2 weeks, I'll make a motion to vote on having the city council, or excuse me, the city manager look at some draft of an ordinance to implement E-Verify on city contracts, since it's on the agenda.
I guess I'm confused. You're asking for him to have an ordinance drafted next meeting?
To come up with a draft, something similar to the Mission Viejo, which they've had for over 2 years. Huntsville, Alabama, theirs just went into effect January 1 this year. I'm sure there's other cities. That's just information I've looked at 2 months ago. I mean, I agree with you. It's a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a lot of the questions you have are probably answered on the frequently asked questions of the E-Verify website. I hope that they'll answer your questions. In fact, they were in the Section 8 attachment. A lot of the questions were there for the federal program, not really the local E-Verify program itself. But
I was more hoping to be able to give the city manager a little bit more direction before we send him off into ordinance writing form.
Do you have a motion on the floor? Do we have a second?
For which motion, mine or?
Yeah, you made the motion.
Yeah, I made a motion to give the city manager direction to come up with some drafts of ordinances that we could look at and go on from there.
Right, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Hearing none, is there any other action we'd like to have? Give to staff. Any other direction?
Mayor, if we can, and whatever works out as far as their schedule goes, and again, I had mentioned another workshop session where we can dive into some more specifics on this, that we're not so rushed, or if it is possible for the retreat to dive into it a little bit more, but at a future date, what works out well with his scheduling, to bring this back up, get into it a little bit more, and look at some more details on it.
Do we have room on the retreat for this?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
He's asking, Councilman Thornton asked if we had room on the retreat.
Well, the retreat agenda hasn't been set, so if you would like to have it on the retreat, we can certainly put it on the retreat.
Any direction to staff?
That was my direction.
Yeah, I'd like to have it on the retreat agenda, so there's more time available than just a regular workshop session and council session.
Okay. Do you need a motion on that, Councilor, or do we just give that as direction to staff? Okay. You comfortable with that, sir?
If that's what the group would like to do.
I second
think
that
we do
motion.
need a motion on that.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay. Councilman Tierney, your motion was to put it on the retreat agenda?
I thought we just give him direction.
Well,
He needs to make sure that the majority of the council
Yeah.
he can only act on the majority of the council.
Okay, I'll make a motion to put it on the retreat agenda.
Second.
And then Councilman Watts, you had seconded it already, didn't you? Or did you not? I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, I did. But
Okay. Second by Councilman Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I didn't hear you. Sorry. No big deal. It's going in that.
Item number 9, consideration of direction to staff regarding use of the Federal 287G program. The Federal 280Z program continues to evolve, most recently through significant tightening of required MOA, Memorandum of Understandings, and oversight by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. Various elements of what may once have been done under 287G agreements have been or are becoming available to local authorities without use of the 287G agreement and with less liability exposure. Examples include the Criminal Alien Program, CAP, which has been utilized by Louisville since 2007, Community Shield Gang Task Force, and Secure Communities, a new database biometric sharing and access program. The Chief of Police is pursuing involvement in both the latter two programs and as a more targeted and effective means of addressing local illegal immigration issues with ICE, which is Immigration and Customs Enforcement, at this time, and continues to monitor these and other programs as they develop or change. The recommendation of staff is that council support utilization of ICE programs as deemed useful, necessary, and cost-effective by the police department. We do have 2 cards filled out here on this. So you have one from Rita Williams in support, but does not want to speak. And I believe 2 of the other people prior to basically asked for 8 and 9 to be support, Miles Holzel and Francis Davis also do not want to speak. Do have a card also filled out by Winston Edmondson that does want to speak. Can you fill just one more time, give your name and address for the record?
Certainly. Winston Edmondson, 1292 Marchant Place, Louisville, Texas. I wanted to make a quick comment about the 287G discussion we had in the workshop. I think the mayor may have been confused when he repeatedly said that the current CAP program is better than 287G. The word better indicates that this is an either-or choice when, in fact, both programs can be used. If CAP by itself is more valuable than 287G by itself, then the 2 programs used in conjunction with each other should obviously be better than using just one. I spoke with Mayor Tim O'Hare, and I'm surprised that he wasn't invited to the workshop to give some testimony, because he supports the use of 287G, which they use in Farmers Branch. And we spoke about some of the benefits that I didn't hear discussed in the meeting. You know, people talk, illegal aliens talk, the Mexican consulate talks. When cities demonstrate that they're ready to crack down on illegal aliens, the word gets out. So it's, you know, there are some definite benefits that we did discuss. The interaction with ICE, getting to work with the task force and knowing what's happening in some of the other cities. You know, Louisville does not exist in a vacuum. What's happening in Irving and what's happening in other cities, it would be valuable to be a part of that task force and be able to work with them. But some of the unspoken benefits, again, is the word of mouth. Louisville is now a city that is willing to do what it takes to crack down on illegal aliens. That's the type of thing that we want. We want that reputation so illegal aliens know that this is not a city that we used to be, not a city where city council members suggest we build a day labor site. We're ready to crack down. With the attempted terrorist attack in downtown Dallas recently, which was carried out by an illegal alien for all he knew, when he pressed that button, the tower in Dallas would have blown up. Thank goodness we had the FBI and it was a sting and it didn't work. But the fact that we have that type of danger right here in our home, illegal aliens are terrorists sometimes, and it seems to me that we would want to take advantage of every tool available to us. That's what Mayor Tim O'Hare said. That's what I know some of the council members here believe, and I hope that you all decide it's time to take advantage of all the tools that are available to us and protect Louisville and protect North Texas. Thanks.
One thing I want to correct you on is that the mayor, did not say that the CAP program was better than 287G. I quoted 2 agents that work for U.S. Customs Enforcement and Department of Homeland Security in saying that they said the program that our police department has been using here in since 2007, which Police Kerbo has headed up, the program that they've been using through CAP has performed better than the 287G program, and they didn't feel we ought to take advantage of it because the program is working better. And I didn't say that. That was just repeating what they had told us in a meeting. So, Chief, why don't I let you expand a little bit on your, if that's all right, just expand a little bit on your philosophy of why you're using the programs you use now and how you think they've been beneficial for the community.
Certainly, Mayor. There are quite a few programs that ICE has made available to local law enforcement. Back in 2007, there were really very few programs, 287G, of course, being one of those. But now they've carved out many more local projects that local law enforcement could get involved in if they choose to. And so my philosophy is to, I guess one could take the position of let's get every tool. But I take a little bit different approach to that. I want to use the tools that I believe are going to be the most effective and will expend our resources less in places other than the city of Louisville. And so far, in my estimation, CAP is one of those, Secure Communities is one of those, participating part-time in the Operation Community Shield, which is the ICE Gang Task Force, is one of those. But I'm open to things that appear to be better for the city of Louisville as they come along, and these things are dynamic. They change, conditions change, and certainly in 2 more years these programs are going to look different. There may be things that are more advantageous in 2011 or 2012, and it may be 287G, it may be something that we don't even see on the horizon. So my position is to not commit the city of Louisville's liability and make the city at risk by participating in programs that would extend our risk out there. These other programs that we're currently participating in certainly let us do that, where it's the responsibility of the ICE folks to make critical decisions and not my people making those decisions that would put us at risk.
Thanks, Chief. And I just want to kind of give you a little thank you and commend you and your department, including our city manager and his department. But about that 2-hour meeting, the first 30 minutes of that meeting probably was of the 2 agents that were there from the Department of Homeland Security and Immigration and Customs Enforcement had nothing but praise for you and your staff and the programs that you have implemented. In fact, they were saying that we, as the city, because of the programs that you've implemented, are one of their model cities, that they go out and show other cities and other communities throughout the country how they can utilize the most effective programs that are available to them with the least amount of cost to their citizens and the least amount of liability to their citizens, but even have a better outcome than those of some of the other cities. So it was great to hear him say that. It just reinforced my backing of you over the years of what a good job y'all have done there, and to hear these 2 gentlemen who were totally neutral to come out and they're kind of there, as what I'm saying, we're supposed to kind of say this program, but I got to tell you what you're doing is working better, and we commend you for that. So I want to say thank you for that. With that, Councilman Tierney, start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. When I first saw this coming up on the agenda, I was a bit frustrated because we have studied this, analyzed it, beat it up and down, back and forth for years now, and it was frustrating because we're going to do it again, and we have been told by the experts that the program that we're using is a good program. It's working. It works better than the other options. But once we got into the meeting tonight, I was enlightened, and I'm glad that we took a look at it because we have some good things that have come of it. And I think every now and then that we do need to analyze these things, especially if they're evolving and they're offering us different options. There's no way that I think the City of Louisville should go down the 287G program, that avenue, for all the reasons that have been stated. For my expert chief of police, he's saying that this program is working just fine. He's got a whole list of reasons why we shouldn't. The mayor, who was sitting in the meeting with the experts that actually operate ICE, say our program is working actually better. So that's a no-brainer. We should stick with our CAP program that we have been using, that has been effective. So I don't even see any reason for discussion on that. I do support our police chief in the initiatives that you want to move forward on with the Secure Communities program and the Operation Community Shield program. Outstanding, and that's one of the factors that came up because we did analyze this. So I'm glad that we did. I'm glad that it did come about, and that we're continuing to look at these options and come up with different ways that we can better fight the issues that we have at hand. Thank you, Mayor.
Well, let me just say this, though, that I learned in that meeting. Chief had already been working on these issues for a year or so anyway, as soon as they were made available. And that's one of the things these two officers were saying, that it seemed like our chief and his staff, as soon as a new tool becomes available, they get on top of it, they investigate it, they look at the facts. They look at the pluses and minuses. None of it's perfect. They look at the pluses, the minuses, and they make the determination of what's best for the community and the most resourceful for the dollars for the community. So they had been having discussions before we brought this to them. They had already been having discussions with chiefs on how to implement these into our community. Councilman Thornhill.
Well, I appreciate Chief Curbo's presentation at the workshop. That helped educate me a little bit more, and plus I've been studying on this through the weekend. It sounds like the 287G program that was of yesterday is not the same that we have today. Looks like there's been some modifications, and I think if we took the approach of going to 287, we would be actually taking a step backwards instead of forward. Again, I have to, as a councilman up here, I have to listen to the subject matter experts. If the fire chief comes to me and says he needs something, then I'll listen to him. If the police chief comes and says this is what we need to do, then I'll listen to him. So I've heard the police chief say, with his professional opinion, that we should not go to the 287G program, that we should go ahead with what we've got today, the CAPS, as well as some of the other programs that he's looking into that seem to be somewhat better or superior than what the 287 is. I also heard from the mayor that several ICE people, or maybe it was just one ICE person, attended a meeting who also, I think, mentioned that this is not the route to go the practice that you're doing in Louisville today. So I've got a police chief, I got ICE people telling me to do something or not to vote something, and why would I go out and do something the opposite of what they're asking or telling me or suggesting? So I'm going to have to follow their expertise on this and move forward. Thank you.
Councilman Watt.
Also, want to thank the chief for his presentation. I want to say a little bit about the point that sometimes comes up in this discussion about why not add another tool to the toolbox. The Chief Curbo brought that up, and clarify that by going the 287G route and doing the MOA, currently with the programs that we use, if somebody's in our jail, we refer to ICE. ICE does the work. They search the database. They determine if he's here legally or not. They want to hold him, if they want to detain him or whatever. They do that work. They give that direction to our police officers. We go from there. Under 287G, it's my understanding, Chief, correct me wrong if I'm wrong, our police officers would be doing the paperwork involved as far as the search of the database and have to be trained on how to do that. But they would be supervised by ICE. They would be under the authority of ICE, not under Chief Kerbo's authority, under ICE's authority, which gets back to a point, on the previous topic about, our entanglement with the federal government. By adding, if we were to add 287G, it's not like we're adding another hammer to the toolbox. It's actually paying two guys to use the same hammer, because that work is being done already under the programs that we use. But it's done by the ICE officials instead of done by our local officers here. So it's not in addition to, it's duplicative, frankly, and it takes the control from the local authority, puts it in the hands of the feds, who, there are, the list is long and distinguished of examples of the inefficiency of the federal government. So I wanted to address that point, and then also just to echo what Councilman Thornhill said. There might come a time, that these programs are evolving. If there was a time when ICE said, we're no longer going to do this work for you unless you sign this MOA with us, if that's the case, then we may have to go with 287G. And if that's the recommendation from the police chief, that's certainly what I would vote to do. The fact is, a lot of people, 287G was another example of hot issue, illegal immigration. Got to do something. Got to do something. Got to do something. Here's a program, and a lot of people heard 287G is a program that lets local police get involved in immigration, and so they thought, man, that's it. That's got to be it. Everybody's got to do that. It's got to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. When you actually get into the details of the program, you find there are other things that you can do that are just as effective, if not more, that don't commit you to a much more locked-in relationship with the federal government. They're there to help you instead of outsourcing some of their work to the locals. A lot of people on all sides of the political issue of immigration tried to use 287G to score political points. But all the politics in the world, good or bad, means nothing if the policy's not working. That's what we're charged to do, is make good policy and let the politics play themselves out. And when it comes to who am I going to listen to, just like Councilman Thornhill said, I can listen to all the folks on, who send me emails. I can listen to talk radio. I can listen to guys on TV who all know how to talk about immigration and 287G and these programs. Or I can listen to the man who actually does it. And, what is your profession? What is it that you've spent your life learning how to do? Talk about this issue, or am I going to listen to the man who spent his adult life protecting this community? I'm going to listen to him every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And if he changes his mind, I'll be the first one to change my mind. But until then, I see no reason for us to vary from what we've been doing. Appreciate the chief's work and staying on top of the different things that are available and bringing them to us, saying, hey, this sounds good, I want to do it. This doesn't, I don't want to do it. He's always very straightforward about that, and I appreciate that. And that's, with that, I refer to Councilman Grena.
Councilman Grena?
Thank you, sir. Chief, I do applaud the efforts that you're making. We've had a lot of discussions on this topic, and you know I'm a fan, okay? The 280s what I'm about to say is pretty much for the citizens of Louisville for the tape. We've already talked about it. The 287G of yesterday incorporated all these different programs that are now under what they called ICE Access. I encourage the citizens of Louisville to go to the Department of Homeland Security and the ICE.gov website and look at that and look at the frequently asked questions and learn it for yourself. In the past, when we had someone come to our jail, illegal or not, we didn't know for sure because we had to call the part of the CAP program. Let me back up a step. 287G program used to cover all these things. If you were in the 287G program, you had CAP. The secure communities, the big plus for that is a computer system that ties in with the national ICE database. They weren't getting that when they went to our jail. They only got that if ICE detained them and they went to county. A lot of people are slipping through. With this current administration and with the MOAs, Memorandums of Understanding, that were all wrapped up and retyped July 10th. I said June in the workshop. It was actually July 10th. Napolitano, then pretty much there's a lot of restriction now, basically, is what it was. The ICE agents that I've been talking to for the last 6-7 months, one of them did say that he didn't recommend 287G for us at this time unless we wanted to be part of the task force. We already have one officer part of a DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency task force. But depending on our MOA, he doesn't have to be gone all the time. I had envisioned that our drug gang unit person, or I think we have two now, would be the 287G personnel to help them. Again, it's not or the other. They do, they are, other factors onto it. In other words, secure communities, under the old program, you would have had that. Now we can do that. I think that is the biggest chunk of the old program that I really want. I still believe that the 287G program will be a benefit to our drug gang unit. I really do. I don't think we need 16 officers trained. I think the one or two that would help them do their job a little bit better would be great. However, the MOAs for the 287G, which is, and people are asking, what is 287G? It's a paragraph of the Act that says that our local law officers can be cross-designated as INS agents also. They have kind of the same responsibilities. Again, it all comes down to our memorandum of agreement with the government on how far we give them, half a day, full day. They could be just here putting the cases together, and ICE sends in the task force to do the rounding up, not our police officers. Now, the memorandum of agreements for secure communities, do we need a vote on that, or are you just going to sign that? Because I'm for that.
It's not on the agenda.
Well, I understand. But do we need a vote for that in the future? We can just...
Well,
I'm glad you're doing it. You have my blessings. Go forth, young man. You okay? I'm for it. All right. So with the current 287G program and the current administration, that cross-designation, I believe, would be a plus. It is not a, with the other programs, I think it's not as valuable. But again, to me, it's an addition. It's not a separation. Because if it was, they wouldn't be splitting it up in this ICE Access program as you can do this and this and this. Okay? They separated them out pretty well. I think the secure communities direction you're going is a very positive step. Now, instead of having to rely on the hit and miss if they go to the county, we can get the fingerprints and all that stuff checked with a national database. Because they may be here just for a Class C misdemeanor. ICE isn't too interested in those. But what if he committed murder or raped somebody in Houston or another state? That is the biggest part of the 287G, the criminal alien program. Together, those things work. Criminal alien program, if they committed a federal Class B or A in this jurisdiction, then we'd contact ICE. But with secure communities, if they had done that in another community, then they can be hopefully caught once their information gets through. And that is evolving. The mayor is correct. This program is evolving. And I believe the next step they're talking about is biometrics, face recognition software. And that'll be part of the secure communities, you think, when it becomes available, or, Chief?
Right now, the only biometrics I'm aware of through secure communities is going to be the fingerprint, and they'll have a photograph of about 95% of the database occupants.
I had read something that they were going to probably implement that sometime in the future, so I didn't know if it was there yet or not. So this is a great direction, Chief. I'm great. And if I remember this right, I'm almost done here, Mayor. The item 9 is consideration of direction to staff regarding the use of federal 287G program. I'm still in favor for it. Once Councilman Durham is...
You're in favor of the 287G program?
As adding it to our thing, yes. As adding to our repertoire for 1 or 2 officers to go. I am in favor of it. I think that You know, I believe the chief. I agree with him with a lot of his opinions and stuff. It's just that from what I've read and seen these other states and jurisdictions do, they do nothing but praise that ability. Even though it's restricted right now, it's still a step in the right direction. And who knows what's going to happen in 2.5 years when we get a new administration in. Maybe we'll go for it then. If it doesn't pass tonight, so be it. We voted on it. It's done.
It was my understanding the chief said he would need 16 people. He wasn't going to do it half.
The way he wanted to do it, yes, sir. But I don't know what jurisdiction.
Chief, if you could, I think Chief can explain why he would need 16 instead of 1 or 2.
Two different models.
My position would be if we want to go into 287G, I want to make that resource available to our entire department. So that means having people on duty 24/7 that could respond. If you're the officer, for example, that doesn't have that training, and you need somebody that does have it, then I can get somebody there pretty quick. I don't want to have to get someone out of bed or put somebody on call, that sort of thing. I need to have the resources available to you on the scene of an incident that you're going to respond to. So that would be my take on, if I did 287G, I want at least 16 officers trained to do that, more if I can get it.
I'm for it, but it was more than I envisioned that I had envisioned.
I think his reasoning for that, though, is because other than Chief Kerbo, Chief Lasky, and our city manager, they're probably the only, no, there's a lot of them, all these people out here, they work 24 hours, 7 days a week. But our police officers can't work 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. If you had one person, he's got to have time off. He's not going to work 24 hours a day. He's got to have time off. So when he's not there, he's on vacation, he's sick, who would be doing the work? We'd still be expected to perform that duty. I think it's what you had alluded to me. If I'm going to do the program, I got to have enough officers involved to do the program, and that's why the ICE agents were telling me at that meeting that they are pulling contracts because cities are not doing their duties through the 287G. They're not providing the training to the officers. They're not putting the officers out there to do what the program was intended. And so that's why they're splitting this out and doing the other programs, which the chief has been taking advantage of over the last several years and been staying on top of and keeping it.
And to say that, I agree that if you want to go that far, that's something more than I had envisioned. But they said, they didn't recommend 287G unless we want to be part of the task force. He really wants another man for his task force. We already do that now with a drug enforcement agent, or one of our officers in the drug enforcement agency. Now, was there special training for that? The DEA stuff?
There was some special training for that, not to the degree of a 4-week training.
I understand it's because of the laws. I understand. But we do have one officer like that in our department with the DA. And I'm very proud, Chief, that you have somebody involved in a regional task force. I really am. I'm all for having one or two people in our city that's involved also in our regional task force with 287G. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Councilman Durham?
I'm still opposed to the 287G of going into it whole hog. Just a comment before we get talking too much further into this. Is anybody else concerned about the Big Brother deal of this whole thing? Of the two last topics we've done, all the stuff that's there now, and then the whatever that's been talked about.
No, I'm not.
Well, there's a comment there that he's not concerned about it, so that's one. But we're getting real close to, at birth or at some point, getting a microchip put in your brain or in your head somewhere, and so you can be followed 24 hours a day. And this is stepping right there, but that's another side issue. I'm going to be in support of the police chief and allow them to pick and choose which items that they think are effective. I'm not going to get into all the acronyms that are used and all the different names because I have no idea what they all mean, and I'm not going to learn about them all. So I'm going to let them take care of that. We are doing a good job here, and I will support that. And if that needs to be in the form of a motion, it is.
Your motion is to continue with operations
the way we are and let the police chief, if they need funding, which that will come back to us through the city manager.
Excuse me, did Councilman Guarino make a motion, or did I?
Yeah, I thought he did.
I did.
I didn't hear you make a motion.
Right at the tail end.
Well, I'll withdraw my motion.
I think your motion could be good, too.
I didn't hear the motion.
Don't get me wrong.
Councilman Rand, would you make your motion again? I didn't hear it. I apologize.
That's all right, sir. I made a motion to see if we can get at least one 287G trained gang force unit officer so that we can be part of that task force program if we can, please. However you want to.
Have a motion by Councilman Guerrero.
I've got a question on that. And this will be from staff, I assume to be the police chief. Is that in your proposal to be looking at anyway? That you would continue working towards something like the motion is here?
The Community Shield is the program where we're going to participate part-time with the ICE Gang Task Force, and that will include a 3-day Title 19 cross-designation customs enforcement training. It's not the full-blown 4-week 287G training, as I understand it.
Thank you.
That's right. It's not the full-blown.
And I think one of the concerns the chief has with the participation in the gang task force, the formal 287G gang task force element, is that basically you can farm that officer off to Timbuktu for months at a time. We don't know if we don't control it. So basically you're just handing over a guy, and if you'll recall in our meeting with Chakwan, he said he'd take any guys you gave him.
And he said he would expect him to be there when they called for him, too.
And as I recall, Chief, did you say that is kind of a waste of money?
Well, it's not the use of resources that I would want to support. I want to keep my Louisville officers in Louisville if at all possible. Even our participation in the DEA task force, there are strings attached to that. It's one of the Dallas area task forces, and they don't really they go throughout the North Texas area, but typically they don't go beyond that, and our officers are not empowered to go beyond that per our agreement that we have with them.
So in your professional expert opinion, it is not the best use of the City of Louisville's resources?
No, sir, not this time.
Thank you.
Especially given the alternative of Community Shield, which allows you to conduct many of the same activities on a more localized basis through the intelligence sharing and working with ICE on the same issues that you might be able to bring people in from other communities to work here as opposed to sending someone here to work elsewhere.
That's how I see is basically what this boils down to, the difference is. And I'm sure that ICE would love for us to sign 287G. They'll take all officers they can get because it's free labor for ICE.
That's all in the MOA,
It's the difference between the access programs, the stuff that we're currently doing, and the stuff that the chief wants to look into, is ICE helping our officers, and 287G is our officers working for ICE. It's basically requiring us to take local tax dollars that we use to fund our police force to help do ICE's job, which I'm paying federal taxes to pay those guys to do. It's paying two people to do the same thing. And as long as that's the case, I think we're doing the right thing.
We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Hearing none, is there any other action?
I will put my same motion on the floor that I made before, that we continue the way we're going now and have the police chief come back to us with items that they feel that they're necessary to be into that cost additional money. If there's things that he can do within his current budget, then he can go with that.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Durham and a second by, who seconded it? I'm sorry. Councilman Watts. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Now we're down to reports. Nika, do you have anything, ma'am? Bob? Chief? Nothing, Lasky? Your Santa Claus sure did a good job this year. Nothing but just compliments about that from everybody. Linda? Chief Kerbo.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have one thing for you.
All right.
We launched January 1 a new graffiti hotline designed to help citizens report to us locations in the city where they've experienced graffiti or tagging, as it's called by some. And it was one of those things, again, a low-cost use of current resources for us to be able to make it easier for citizens to report that to us. The number for those watching at home is 972-219-5010. I tried to come up with a catchy acronym that those last 4 would stand for, but we just didn't have it in our bank of numbers to be able to do that with. So we tried to pick a number that was fairly easy to remember. The caller will receive a voicemail and an opportunity to go straight to dispatch if they're reporting something in progress and they failed to call 911. Otherwise, it goes to recording, and they'll record the location for us, and it will be directed to dispatch supervisors who will ensure a call for service goes in, and we get people out there. Of course, the goal is always to eradicate graffiti or tags within the first 24 hours, if that's at all possible. It helps to cut down on future instances. So that's the whole point of that. You'll see some more publicity about that in the coming weeks, but just want to make you aware of that.
Right, what was that number again, Chief?
The number is 972-219-5010.
Thank you, sir. Harold. Donna. Brenda, congratulations on the award tonight. I know it wasn't just you, but I know it was a consolidated effort throughout the staff, and we appreciate it. Mr. Ferris. Mr. Backus. Mr. Durham.
I do want to thank Waste Management for their working on the holidays to hopefully alleviate the problems they would have, and then to throw into that the ice day that came on Christmas Day. I got a few calls, you told me they were going to be here on Friday. I said, well, just leave it there, and they wouldn't leave it there. So they took it in, and then they missed when they did pick it up within the next 48 hours. So, but I do want to thank Waste Management for that.
Okay. Councilman Renner.
I wrote out, Chief, you have some great officers. I've been riding out with them. My goal was to ride out with each shift before the holidays were over, but that during the week it's kind of tough during the AM hours. I'll get the A shift sooner or later. But I do encourage the rest of the council members, city staff to ride out with our officers. They're a great bunch of guys. They really do their job. I was really proud to work with them. You have some really good folks. I don't want to mention any names because every one of them have been fantastic. Thank you, Chief, for your stringent hiring practices and your high standards. I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Councilman Watt.
Nothing other than if Texas ends up not having the 2 undefeated teams, it's your fault for jinxing them for bringing it up. So just so everybody knows that, and to congratulate my 3 teams for winning their bowl games: Arkansas, the state of my birth; Ole Miss Rebels, Hotty Toddy, for where I went to law school; and third team, which is anybody who's playing LSU, which is Penn State. So I'm 3-0.
$15 fine.
So I'm 3-0.
All right. Mr. City Manager, sir. Councilman Thornhill.
I'll just echo Rudy's comment about Waste Management being out there on Christmas Day, as well as Steve Backus. I think he made himself available to all of us out there on the same time schedule.
Yeah.
And I know you may have mentioned it out here. I didn't hear it, but you did in the back about the post office. You might want to bring that up.
I'll bring that up.
Okay.
All right. Councilman Tierney.
I'm going to relinquish my time to the attorney tonight.
Liz, you did a wonderful job, ma'am. It was great to have you here. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Anything, Julie? No. Councilman Tierney, could you give us an update of the score, maybe, so everybody knows?
I have no idea, sir.
I think it's 10-7. If you look at your Blackberries, I think it's 10-7, but I don't know what half it is. All I know is 10-7 and TCU's getting beat, so we got to start cheering. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was that when you see Congressman Burgess, we talk a lot of times about our state legislature doesn't do this and our federal government doesn't do that, but we're the ones that elect them. It's us that puts them there. They get one vote just like we get one vote. But I will tell you this, Congressman Burgess worked and his staff, many long, hard hours for us over the last several months. And we received a letter from him. I'd known about it for a while, but, political things, you can't upset people or alienate people. You got to do it in the proper format. But he did send out a letter, and it's officially been stated that our Old Town post office right down here on Charles Street has been taken off of the to-be-closed list by the United States Postal Service. So we have, from what I understand, we have a 5-year new lease on our Old Town post office here in Old Town, which it was scheduled to be closed last August, and we've been working diligently to keep that here. A lot of that, I think, went from our city staff, giving Congressman Burgess a lot of information about the redevelopment we're doing down here, the planning on what we're planning on doing on some housing and some businesses down here in the community to redevelop this area of town. I think that went a long way. So if you see him or any one of his staff, you might say thank you, because they worked hard on getting that done. So with that, in accordance with Texas Government Code, Subchapter D, Section 551.072, Real Estate Property Acquisition, and Section 551.087, Economic Development, deliberating regarding economic development negotiations, we adjourn into closed session. Call us back in session. Councilors, any action be taken?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilman Greener to adjourn, second by Councilman Watts. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Happy New Year, everybody.